Hey, howdy, hey folks, it is Mrs. Johnson with the Agro Wisdom channel. We are doing more FFA lullabies. We are reading out of Cattle Country of Peter French by Giles French, who's not related. I took my book cover off because I was tired of ripping it to pieces. And we are a decent chunk through this book. Oh, we've got like 60 pages left. Oh, bruh. See? Look at us. Oh. I will get used to this camera one day, guys. See? No. Oops. I fucked up. This is what we need to read. And this is what we have read. So we've read like just under 100 pages. Let's talk about it. In my version of Cattle Country by Peter French, I am on page 94, and we are starting the chapter John Devine of Whitehorse. So, let's do that. John Devine of Whitehorse. John Devine was the first of California cattlemen to settle in the Steens Mountain Country in Oregon. He was living in the Sacramento Valley in 1868 when he made arrangements with W.B. Todd Hunter, a Sacramento butcher, to go to Oregon and explore the possibilities of raising cattle there. Devine was able to acquire the site of Camp C.F. Smith, which was abandoned in 1869 after 3 years of occupancy. The site was on a comparatively small oasis, where 4 creeks flowed through a valley. It was well east of the Pueblo Mountains, south of the Steens. Its terrain was more like Nevada than the Harsey Basin. This might have been a deciding factor, because John Devine was familiar with the excellent Nevada cattle on the San Francisco market. He set up his headquarters by building some permanent houses of native stone, of which there were plenty around. He also constructed a sod house that is still used, and then put up the famous red barn with the cupola at one end. Cupola. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that word. At one end. Atop this, he placed the replica of a white horse, thereby giving the name to the ranch and to the largest of the 4 creeks. The barn and the white horse still exist and are still in good repair. White Horse Ranch was never a competitor to P Ranch or the Island Ranch in matters of water, grass, or potential resources. It must depend on small creeks for water, not having the bountiful supply from a snow-fed river. John S. Devine was a Southerner, having been born in Richmond, Virginia in 1839, just 10 years before the birth of Peter French. Though tall and graceful as a young man, Devine became heavy in later years. All his life, he liked racehorses. His stallion, Reno, was locally famous and had made many colts that raced in Burns and in California. Usually, however, without profit. The big barn on the ranch was really a racehorse barn. Maurice Fitzgerald, who lived in the region many years and wrote about its history, recorded the following story about Devine. The year was 1874, and a tramp had applied at the White Horse Ranch for employment. As was his custom, Devine put the man to work doing some chores about the premises. After working for a month, the man asked for his pay and got it, saying he was going south. While he was on the job, a stray horse had wandered in from some distant point. The animal had a brand that no one recognized. As usual in such circumstances, the stray was put into the enclosure with other horses until such time as his owner might happen along and claim him. If no one claimed him, he became property of the ranch. That was the custom. The tramp knew of this strange horse, and so when he was preparing to leave, he caught the animal and rode off in the direction of Trout Creek. When Devine learned what the fellow had done, he swore that he would never get away with it. Mounting his horse, he started out on the trail of the horse thief. He caught up with him at the ranch of John Catlow on Trout Creek, 30 miles from Whitehorse. He commanded the tramp mount his stolen horse and come back with him to the White Horse Ranch. Horse Thief reluctantly obeyed. However, when about halfway back, he stopped and said he would go no further. He might have feared lynching when he arrived. In parentheses. Getting off his horse, he picked up some large stones and told Devine to return to the home ranch alone, or he would knock him off his horse. Devine ordered the man to put down the rocks or be shot. The thief called Devine a hard name. Devine fired, and the man dropped in his tracks. Nothing was done about the killing for 2 years, according to Fitzgerald. At the end of that time, the authorities in Canyon City notified Devine to come to the county seat, a long 4-day trip. At Canyon City, the sheriff was satisfied with Devine's explanation, and no action was taken. Devine and Todd Hunter were among the first of the big cattlemen to become interested in swamped land. This resulted in their invasion of the Harney Basin and getting control of the island ranch east of the Burns. But it also resulted in the constant conflict with settlers coming into the country. Devine's personality aggravated matters. He had gracious manners for his peers, but none for those of less fortunate circumstances. He was largely responsible for the many sections of land marked with the big red S in the flat area north of Mulhare Lake, which he called the Red S Field. The S meant swamp. The lettering was red. Beside the swamp land wranglings, Devine and Todd Hunter had other problems. Owners of the Central Oregon Land Grant disputed possession of alternate sections of land because of a federal land grant for proposed construction of a military road from Albany to Fort Boise. Finally, in 1887, they turned over their property by trust deed to Singletary, Hayes, and Brooks of California. Settlers were then clamoring for possession before Oregon officials. The winter of 1888 to 1889 struck the final blow. For years prior to this, the weather had been very dry. When the hard winter came, there was no hay for the cattle. At least 3/4 of them were lost. There was no choice but to sell out. Henry Miller bought the remaining cattle and land claims from the creditors. Devine was made superintendent with headquarters on the island ranch, but he was not cut out to be second in command. He was a boss. He continued writing bullhead drafts on Miller until that careful German came up to the ranch and fired him, saying, "I never knew a man who could make so many enemies." Henry Miller was not vindictive. He let Devine move to the 6,000-acre Alvord Ranch, east of the highest part of the Steens. This was a beautiful ranch, bathed in the myriad shifting colors of the desert on one side, shadowed by the rocky heights of the Steen Mountains on another. There Devine lived until fatally injured in an accident in 1901. John Devine made his mark as a big operator of cattle ranches more because of his financial backing than his efficiency or ability to raise quality cattle. He liked to have animals about him. His barnyard was always full of horses, chickens, or other domestic animals. At the time of his death, he was preserving a small herd of elk on the slopes of the Steens. Okay, that is that chapter. So I'll see you in the next video for the Glens of Jancinco. Okay? This was a super short chapter, so if my FFA babies are not asleep, I don't blame you. Let's jump to the next video. Thank you!